It's time for a movie with intense, bloody, sweaty battles with some of the highest personal stakes ever committed to film. And jazz drums. Stay with me. Whiplash. Whiplash is a film from a few years back, but I've really been wanting to talk about it. I'm going to say out the gate that this is one of the best damn movies I've ever seen. Before I get into the premise and you click off, let me just say, when I first heard about the premise of this movie, I wasn't really hyped about seeing it. How interesting could a movie about a student jazz drummer and his teacher really be? Oh my god, was I wrong. So without giving too much away, I'll give you the basic premise of the movie. Whiplash is about a young college student played by Miles Teller who is very passionate about drums. But not just drums, jazz drums. Not really passionate about the drums themselves, more the playing of the drums. But you know what I mean. He goes to a prestigious music school in New York and has dreams, like a lot of the students, of being part of the school's prestigious jazz group headed up by J.K. Simmons. Apparently you have to be handpicked by Simmons to be in this class. And of course our main character gets picked to go to this class. He soon finds out that not all is rainbows and unicorns over there in this prestigious jazz class. Oh no, because what comes along with this jazz class is the teacher from hell. From here the movie follows Teller through his trials and tribulations in the class, and as he attempts to raise his status in the class, culminating in a climactic, lack of a better word, battle in the end of the movie. And that's the basic story. There's a little bit more to it, but ultimately that's what's going on in the movie without spoiling too much. I know, that synopsis doesn't make the movie sound too interesting, but as stated before, this is one of the best damn movies I have seen ever. Definitely in my top 5 of the past decade. And I watch a lot of movies, so that's kind of saying something. Now let's get some stuff out of the way. My relationship with jazz is non-existent. I've never been a huge fan of jazz. I don't have a problem with it. It's just never really been my thing. I'm more of a drum and bass kind of guy. I'm a little bit less and a little more for the most part. So hearing that this movie was so much about jazz was one of the things that kind of put me off in the beginning. But truly and honestly, this movie is about as much about jazz as Rocky is about boxing. If you've seen Rocky, the original, then you know what I'm talking about. Rocky's not a boxing movie with some drama in it. Rocky is a drama with some boxing in it. And that's how Whiplash is. Whiplash is not a jazz movie with some drama in it. It's a drama with some jazz in it. This movie has some of the most tense scenes ever committed to film, and most of them include Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons. The Oscar that J.K. Simmons won that year for this movie is 100% deserved. We've all had a teacher at some point in time in our lives that we considered the teacher from hell. But oh no, compared to this guy, they're all lightweights. Believe me. This guy is Satan incarnate. He makes Miles Teller's life a living hell in this movie. This stuff has to be seen to be believed. Some of it is so out there, so evil, and so crazy that really all you can do is laugh while you're watching it. And it's not a ha ha, that's so funny comedy laugh. No, it's a ha ha, I don't know what else to do but laugh here because I'm really at a loss of words. The acting in this movie is phenomenal. This is some, if not the best acting I've seen in a movie ever. It is amazing. All of it is Oscar caliber. So what makes the movie so great and relatable? Passion. That's what. Because that's what this movie's ultimately about. Is passion. We have all at some point in time in our lives been extremely passionate about something, and it's hard for other people in our lives to understand that passion and what we're willing to do for it. This movie centers around that ideal. Our main character is extremely passionate about jazz drums. You as the viewer don't have to have any passion whatsoever for jazz to sit there and experience the passion that he does have. He'd have passion about underwater basket weaving for all I care. If it's done like this, it's extremely interesting and engaging. The movie is not pretty. It doesn't pull punches. It's not happy-go-lucky. It's not good feeling, and it doesn't lie to you about that. It's true, it's real, and it's raw. If you are extremely passionate about something, you're willing to put yourself through hell to get that something. On top of passion, it's also about craving and gaining acceptance from someone that you can't. Everyone has craved acceptance from someone at some point in time and not been able to get it. This movie takes those ideas and explores them to their core. And its brutality and realistic approach and the way that it pulls no punches and not everything is all feel good and happy all the time is what makes it so relatable. Because we've all been there at some point in time. Another great thing amongst all the great things about this movie is that the movie doesn't treat you, the viewer, like an idiot. There's no hand-holding here. There's no exposition dumps. You learn what's going on through the dialogue on screen that makes sense. And a lot of the times, just through the facial expressions of the characters and their actions. The movie treats you, the viewer, like you're smart enough to know these things and understand them because it's done such a good job of putting you in the shoes of these characters and putting you in, if not relatable situations, at least relatable feelings in those situations. There's a scene at the end of the movie where a character's talking to another character. He's been beaten down and out, and he's about to give up, but something inside him tells him not to. He stops, he turns around, and goes back. There's a line that's spoken a little bit earlier in the movie that you, the viewer, know that's what's going through his head. In lesser movies, this line would have been thrown out there at the screen as either a voiceover or something he would just say under his breath or say to someone, or the other person in the scene would have said something reminiscing that so that you, the viewer, understand what's going on in his head. Not this movie. None of that is said. You just know, just from how he's looking at the screen and the facial expressions that's going on and his actions afterwards, that is what he thought. It's never once uttered, but you know that that is what was going on in his head the whole time. That is how brilliant this movie is shot and directed and acted. And that brings me to the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil the end because it has to be seen to be believed. All I'll say is that the end of this movie is one of the most intense, visceral, brutal battles that I have ever experienced on film. And not one punch is thrown. It's all done through music, drums, facial expressions, and the slow build of tension. This scene is more exciting and more intense than any action movie scene that you've ever seen. That's a lot of scenes in one sentence. It is epic and one of the most satisfying endings you've ever seen. And quite honestly, it is one of the most perfect endings you've ever seen. I cannot think of any other way that this movie could have ended that would have been more perfect. Nothing else. Where it ended, how it ended, the way that it ended was perfect. Perfection on film. And that is what so many scenes in this movie are. That is what this movie is. It is just perfect in so many ways. I have a hard time finding any flaws with this movie whatsoever. There's no downtime. It's not boring in the slightest. It is nothing but intense the whole time. The only downside I could find to this movie, if you suffer from any type of anxiety, you might have a hard time watching a lot of this movie because it is intense. At the end of the day, this movie is absolutely one of the top 5 best movies I've ever seen, and definitely in the past decade. This is a movie that you're going to want to talk about with people after done watching it. It is simply amazing. So what do I think? Well, it's kind of obvious. Yes, you should buy this movie. Buy 2 copies. At the moment, I don't really have a higher rating than that, but if I ever come up with one, this movie gets it. It deserves the highest rating that I'm able to give. Trust me, you will be blown away. So there it is, guys, my review of Whiplash. One of the best goddamn movies I've ever seen. If you enjoyed and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. It helps my little channel out a lot more than you know. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
I don't know.
Oh, my dear God. Are you one of those single-tier people?
You are a worthless pansy-ass who is now weeping and slobbering all over my drum set like a 9-year-old girl.
This movie is so intense that you'll spend a vast majority of it looking like you're just trying to eke out the biggest shit of your life. Like this. I mean, it's crazy.